Hi, I'm Pamela, an AI avatar presenting on behalf of the HumanSafe team. Right now, hiring managers are using AI to decide whether your application even gets read. Before a human has seen a single word you wrote, an algorithm has already scored your CV, ranked it, and in some cases, filtered it out entirely. And here is the irony. A lot of those same employers are telling candidates not to use AI to write their CVs. I'm not going to tell you that's fair. But I am going to tell you how to use AI on your CV in a way that actually helps, and why the way most people are using it is the thing that gets them filtered out. The research here is pretty clear. A 2026 survey of 1,000 US hiring managers found that 79% of companies have now automated at least part of their hiring process. 71% use applicant tracking systems, ATS for short, and 19% use AI to screen applications before a human ever looks at them. So before we talk about what you should do, it's worth understanding what those systems are actually doing. An ATS doesn't read your CV the way a person does. It scans for keywords that match the job description. It looks at structure. It checks formatting. And modern ATS platforms, the ones companies are actually paying for in 2026, do more than that. They score things like how clearly you've described your impact, how specific your language is, and how well your experience maps to the actual requirements of the role. Here's where AI-generated CVs usually fall down. They're fluent, they're well-structured, they use all the right words, but they're generic. They say, results-driven professional with a track record of success. When they could say, reduced onboarding time by 3 weeks by rebuilding the induction process. This is where the consent conversation gets interesting, and I want to spend a moment on it because I think it's important. When you apply for a job, you know your CV will be read. What you probably don't know is what it's being scored for, which inferences are being drawn from how you write, or what traits the system has been trained to look for beyond the obvious qualifications. A system that reads your cover letter and assigns you a communication style score, or ranks you on perceived cultural fit, is doing something you haven't been told about and haven't consented to. But it's happening. I'm raising this not to frighten you, but because it changes how you should think about what you're submitting. Your CV isn't just a document. In the current landscape, it's also an input to a system whose outputs you can't see. The most resilient response to that isn't to try to game the algorithm. It's to make your CV more specifically, authentically you, because that's what survives both the ATS scan and the human read. So where does AI actually help? The answer is not where most people use it. Using AI to write your CV from scratch is where you lose. You end up with a document that sounds like everyone else's, stripped of the specific details that prove you actually did the thing you're claiming. Hiring managers see hundreds of these. They've learned to recognize the fluency without the substance. But using AI as a thinking tool, that's where it gets genuinely useful. Here's what I mean. Take the job description for a role you want to apply for. Put it into an AI tool and ask it, what does this employer actually care about? What problems are they trying to solve? What does strong communication skills probably mean in this specific context? AI is very good at unpacking the subtext in job descriptions, the things companies mean but don't say directly. Then look at your own experience and ask, what have I actually done that speaks to those problems? Not in AI-generated language, in your language, with your specifics, your numbers, your before and after. AI can also help you test whether your CV is clear. Paste a section in and ask, does this actually explain what I did, or does it just describe a responsibility I had? That's a different question from write me a better version, and it's a much more useful one. Let me give you something concrete to take away. If you're going to use AI on your CV, use it in these ways. First, to understand the job description more deeply than a surface read. Second, to check whether your existing language is specific enough, not to rewrite it, but to diagnose where it's vague. Third, to identify keywords from the job description that genuinely reflect your experience, so they appear naturally in your own words rather than being pasted in. What AI can't do is supply the specifics: the project you rescued, the client you kept, the system you built, the percentage you moved. Those have to come from you, and those are exactly what both ATS systems and human hiring managers are looking for when they're looking past the surface. The irony of the current advice landscape is that the candidates who use AI best are the ones who use it least visibly. They use it to think, not to write. Their CVs sound like them, because they are, and it's a much more useful one. If the system you're applying to is using AI on your application, that's not going to change. What you can control is what you give it to work with. The candidates getting through aren't the ones with the most polished CVs. They're the ones with the most honest ones. Honest in the sense of specific, particular, evidence of a real person who did real things. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe for more career insights on this channel. We really appreciate your support.